Well, hello, folks. Yeah, so, hey, it's been a while. There's been something I wanted to talk about at my desk, but why? Why bother? I don't know. Haven't felt very motivated. Um, I was writing another piece inspired by a friend of mine who wrote an email to me with some open questions, or perhaps they were rhetorical questions, maybe. Uh, my challenges to some people about our uh, way of handling our predicament can be off putting, I guess, can be difficult for some people to uh, deal with, you know, and I understand that. So I wanted to make myself clear about what I'm concerned about, and I wound up writing I don't know how many tens of thousands of words. It's a long essay covering a lot of stuff. But I kind of hope that this will be the last one that I do in this vein, and then focus on the creative work, fiction, um, after this, because I don't think more content is necessarily more better. But there is a certain audience that I want to connect with, affluent, privileged, fortunate people like myself from the United States, um, who are lovers, not fighters, who are spiritual, who are cool, happy people, uh, responsible, decent people like most people, enjoying their lives, who really don't want to engage too deeply with the possibility that doing something, uh, whatever one can do to fight the power, is necessary. Um, I always say apathy around and find out. It's a little quip of mine. But sometimes maybe apathy is the best thing for some people, or, you know, a stoic equilibrium or whatever, because they don't feel uh, comfortable, uh, thinking about what they might have to sacrifice. The fact is, we're all going to have to sacrifice, but usually circumstances dictate when we sacrifice. So at some point, uh, we'll have to cut down on how much driving we do, perhaps, or we'll have to cut down on how much steak we eat. Of course, the plebs and proles are already cutting down, and most of the world has cut down, was always cut down. But privileged people like me might have to start taking some cold showers. I started taking cold showers a long time ago because I didn't think it was the hardest thing to do, and I kind of like cold showers. But also, cutting down on everything just seems appropriate for me. Um, I don't think if I had 20 million euros, I would be on a yacht somewhere burning diesel fuel. Uh, I know I wouldn't be. But anyway, I'm not virtue signaling, I'm just saying it's not my thing. Yeah, so the thing's long, but what I'm hoping is that people who read it will take their time. So if there's a podcast in between a couple paragraphs, I hope they'll take a break from reading the article and go ahead and listen to the podcast, and then come back to the article a little bit later, hopefully, and continue reading. And when a video comes up that I put in between a couple paragraphs, they'll pause, watch the video, and think about it, ponder it, ruminate on it, see if it makes sense to them, what they disagree with, and so on. And, spend some time looking at it. It's a lot to ask for people to give their old friend a break and kind of make the effort to understand what he's all about. But I do believe that it'll be good for people. And I don't want to preach to the choir. A lot of people I know and follow already understand what I'm saying. I differ in subtle ways because I believe more fervently that we have to fight, that we can't just let uh, the people in power get away with it all the time, and that we're in a time in history where we can't necessarily trust the system to take care of itself. It's interesting for me to note that uh, Christopher Hitchens used to write for the New York Times and used to have long C-SPAN conversations about the Odyssey and the Iliad and so on. There was a time when we respected professionals and when we respected the work required and the dedication and the intelligence to get a professional credential. I have friends who are doctors, lawyers. I have friends who are professional journalists. I have friends who are engineers, pilots, on and on and on. And, in the public realm, we used to respect and revere good leaders, people who were sincere about wanting to perform a role in public service and this type of thing. Doctors, public health officials with the right credentials, professionals who have been in the business or the domain for decades, who have found their calling and committed to their calling and done good work for a long time, and yet we can't trust them. The narrative machine keeps pushing out conspiracy stories and other narratives that are basically about making more money and getting more status and attention rather than solving any problems or doing any good. So at some point we don't trust them anymore, right? We can't trust them. And so there's no more motivation, no incentive to become a professional, to have a calling and to commit to it. After all, the revolution will just end up in Stalinism or something. What's the point? Whatever. And I have a bone to pick with everybody, basically, because I'm curious about everything. And I'm wondering what might work. So if communist friends are mad at me because I'm not all down on the communist whatever faction or the socialist thing or whatever other thing, voting at the midterms because I think that Democrats are so much better than Republicans, you know, I get people who think that I'm kind of a sourpuss. When we run out of people, we run out of this established, there's no establishment anymore. There's no established understanding or commitment to certain ideas and beliefs that we kind of trust. So when we run out of that and nobody has the incentive to do that because there's no community anymore, there's no established culture where people can fit into that. And mind you, I'm not saying that modern techno-industrial civilization is the be-all and end-all and that progress is the thing. And if we just sorted out a few things and fine-tuned the machine, everything would suddenly turn around and we would all be heading in the right direction and towards a brighter, more beautiful future and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. Maybe progress comes to an end. There are limits to growth. There are limits to what we can do. We can imagine things, come up with lots of stories. We can do a lot of things, invent a lot of things. But in reality, in the world in which we live and in which we evolved, there are limits. And so understanding our limits allows us to have new opportunities to do things, to create new ways of life and so on. So it's not that I'm saying that, you fine tune it all and it's all going to be fine. Uh, it could just be, and I think it probably is, uh, that this thing of ours, I always use that kind of quip, uh, is coming to an end at some point. Now, of course, that's in the future, right? It's not tomorrow, it's not next month. So it's hard for people to uh, care about, deep time, deep history, futurism, world building, all that kind of thing. So it's difficult for people to care. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the injustice, the omnicide, the ecocide, the genocide that's happening right now and has been happening for generations. And somehow we became more and more pacified, depoliticized, and more willing to go along with whatever, and more addicted to more and more things. So a lot of people talk about this stuff, so I'm not saying mo content, mo better, but this is where I get a little bit testy with all of my revolutionary friends and my content creator friends, all the people who know what's what on the tubes and the platforms. There's just so much out there, and yet what are we actually doing? And then when you get recommendations for doing something, it's usually kind of self-help or some sweet little thing you do with your community, which I agree with, by the way. That's why I moved here, because I wanted to be in a community of people, down-to-earth people, who were connected to nature and to each other. But my mind goes a mile a minute. So, oh man, you know, it's good to make ourselves feel good about what we're doing and to do these nice little things that help out. But at the end of the day, the the maniacs, the players of the great game, real great game, 21st century, are vandals, and they're brutal, and they're accelerationists, and they're going to destroy everything. Their way of life is omnicidal. It's not creative destruction, it's just destruction. And war is so damn lucrative, and it shouldn't be. And we should fight to make sure war isn't lucrative. There are things we have to do politically, socially, culturally, to change the game. And we can't just all, like Jim Rutt, Game B, go out and form our own little communities, and mine's a nudist colony, and yours is a vegan colony, and this guy's white supremacist, and this guy's African American supremacist colony, and we all have our little, libertarian crypto cities, and everybody just lets everybody else be. The world doesn't work that way. Everything's interconnected. One thing happening over here affects everything happening over there. Butterflies flap their wings, and so on and so forth. So at some point, people are going to have to get together, organize, and fight. And that's going to require sacrifice. It's not going to be comfortable or fun. And recognizing that we're kind of irresponsible in that way doesn't make us feel good. I sympathize for people who want to feel good and feel good about themselves and don't necessarily want to think about these things. I get it. Life is good, and it's good for me. I understand that. All I'm just saying, and just saying isn't enough, right? That we might want to think about that urgently, because just hanging around, consuming more content and producing more content and creating more organizations and nonprofits and think tanks and whatever isn't going to solve anything. In a way, it's kind of like a very clever, stealthy tactic of the players to keep us involved with all of this stuff, so we can't push back. We can't fight back. And again, I don't think, I mean, the Bolshevik Revolution or whatever, I mean, none of these things ever work out the way one faction or another hopes they will. You have all these stories in mythology and religion, and none of it works out. You know, the prophecies are still waiting to happen, and so on and so forth. But yeah, maybe we'll never be able to agree on anything at scale. It's not going to become a Star Trek uh, Earth where people, you know, the Federation, the planetary Federation, and then all the local things. Who knows what can happen, though? It might happen. Who knows? But I doubt it. I think at this point, what's going to happen is a die off of our species, and then things are going to get really, really small again and simple again, and then we're going to have to evolve. You know, which means we'll adapt. Uh, Evolution by natural selection is about adaptation. It's not just about, you know, uh, survival of the fittest. It's like the survival of the most adaptive, the most robust. So I'm guessing that'll happen. So what? Why am I worried about it now? Again, the reason I'm concerned is that when I see the scams, the corruption, the dishonesty, uh, the violence, these wars, and so on, I don't like it. It has to stop. We have to stop it. It's not enough to say it's over there. Uh, Anyone who's aware, who knows what's what, and has a conscience and can think clearly, must know that somewhere deep down inside. So I'm telling my friends, my well-off, happy friends, I'm not trying to put uh, a crimp in their style or anything like that. Um, I'm just asking them because they bring it up. You know, what do you think we have to do? You know, besides feel good. Um, and again, I don't corner people over here where I live and make them talk about this stuff. A person will bring up a subject and I'm willing to go there. So it sounds good to me. Let's talk about it. We all talk about, when we talk, we're talking about as much or as little as we know about a thing. And we try to understand each other. We're not all experts and articulate, you know, and you know, well read in various domains and whatnot. So, you know, we try to understand each other. We try to talk, and I think there's less and less of that face-to-face, confrontational, conversational activity going on. So that's one thing I want to do with people if I get the chance when I'm out and about with people and they bring up a thing. Let's talk about it. A lot of times people will think you're being political or something. It'll rub them the wrong way and they just shut down. Um, uh, and then they change the subject to happy thoughts, you know, or they just shut down. And it's unfortunate. I think we're getting more and more like that, unable to have conversations in person, not listen to the conversation on the podcast, but actually have engaging, difficult conversations with people. So it's a problem. At the end of the day, we're going to be a bunch of people who can't think clearly for many reasons. Education is falling apart in some ways, some places. Literacy is going down in some places, you know, where it was going steadily up for generations. And we have to understand that it wasn't too long ago when most people were illiterate and barefoot and so on. You know, we're lucky to have lived in the carbon pulse era, as Nate Hagen likes to characterize it. But a lot of people around the world don't have our privilege or good fortune. And someday we're going to be too stupid to do anything. Just, you know, we can't think, we can't communicate, and that's when the bottom will fall out, and then a few clever survivors will start to adapt again, and they'll start to figure things out. That's usually what happens. You don't just, there'll be some population of people and some people in those populations that will sort stuff out. So I call it, uh, you're fighting on the garbage heap, and then you start to figure out how to make use of the garbage heap. And then there's several clever people who have adapted to it and reinvented the things there, recycled. I don't know. These kind of opportunities come up, and it's all pretty exciting. But in the meantime, can't we just stop these damn wars and get these corrupt morons out of office somehow? And we're going to have to fight really hard to do that, because the players, the oligarchs, and their service providers, they create the law. They create uh, the code of capital, or the capital code. They're the ones. They're the lawmakers. The lawmakers are all bought and paid for. You're not making the law. There's no democracy. So what are we going to do? Just hang around with our fingers crossed and hope that Democrats are going to solve things, or whatever. Fascists are going to solve things, or far lefty people are going to solve things. What kind of communist revolution is happening in Vietnam? I wonder sometimes when I talk to friends. I've been there. It looks like a bunch of skyscrapers and five-star resorts and stuff, and then a lot of other people just struggling to survive, like most places. America's uber rich. There's just so much joy and happiness there for so many people. It's odd. You see these shows like whatever, CIA shows or something, and we're just running around the world killing bad guys. Hardly any of the characters get hurt themselves, just wiping out swaths of Russians and Arabs and whoever we don't like. And it's just, for some reason, we have to do that, I don't know. I better stop talking now. But anyway, I hope that if you read that piece, take your time with it. Don't. If you see something that rubs you the wrong way, just go through it. Maybe in the next section there's something there that inspires you or makes you feel good. And I'm just asking because I think those of us who are fortunate need to do some soul searching, and I mean soul searching. Okay, so I'm begging you, I'm asking you, and for some of my old friends, I'm just asking you for that. And if I'm too much of a curmudgeon or whatever, yeah, you can blow me off. That's fine. I'll make new friends. But it's sad if we can't have difficult conversations, because sometimes your best conversations are difficult conversations. Okay, Bully MT, out.